Now, I would like to just take a few minutes talking about the principal market drivers for uranium, vanadium, and phosphate, our three principal commodities. And the graphic on the left tries to illustrate the world's need for energy. And it looks at a period of 25 years over which the per capita energy consumption of South Korea changed from a very low per capita energy consumption to about the level of the consumption of Japan and France. And that coincided with the emergence of South Korea into an industrialized nation. Now, what I want to focus on is the two lines at the bottom of that graphic, China and India, representing a third of the world's population, which are only just starting to move along that same trajectory as South Korea did. So the takeaway from this graphic is that the world needs a huge amount of energy. And we're really excited to see the countries that are growing fastest, China and India, adopting nuclear and other forms of clean energy, rather than just going at coal the whole time, which is such a polluter. And so the uranium market is driven by the requirement for clean energy. In terms of reactors, and obviously there's been a lot of noise after the Fukushima tragedy, this graphic in the top left, the green bars show the number of reactors that are operable around the world at the moment. And that's very much skewed towards the West. The West is where most of those reactors are. But in the warm colors are what's happening in the future, what's happening now. The orange colors represent the number of reactors that are under construction right now, and the yellow colors are planned reactors. And you see this shift from the West dominating the nuclear energy to China and India and the East, Russia, South Korea, being the main centers of nuclear energy production. And that is because those countries are growing very rapidly, and they need clean energy. And the countries that are making most negative noise about nuclear, and Germany, Italy, and Switzerland, are actually paling into insignificance in this nuclear growth story. So uranium is a good place to be. Our second main commodity is vanadium, which is tied to the steel industry. It's used as an alloy in the steel industry, and that market is projected to grow at about 7% a year. But in addition to that, one of the key drivers in the vanadium space that's starting to come through are the vanadium redox batteries. These are industrial scale, sort of container scale batteries that can be charged and discharged instantaneously. It's very, very simple technology. And the application for these vanadium redox batteries is anywhere where there's an intermittent power source, wind power, solar, whatever it is. And the other huge application is in the power grids, the national power grids, supporting the distribution of power on national grids. So when there's an excess of power, it just gets absorbed by the battery, and as the power usage goes up and demand goes up, it just feeds back into the system. And that will make a huge difference to the vanadium market. So again, vanadium is an interesting place to be. And phosphate, I don't want to dwell on, it's a no-brainer. Phosphate is one of three principal components in agricultural fertilizer. We need more food as the world's population grows, and so fertilizer is a good place to be. And the other thing that I just want to point out is that the Berlin project, which has our phosphate resource, is 60 kilometers from one of the biggest agricultural areas in South America. In terms of just turning back to U3O8 itself briefly, the board of directors is a 7-member group, and it's diverse. It goes right from mineral deposit discoverers like Keith Barron to the people who finance those discoveries like Sheldon Inwantash. On the sort of regulatory side, we've got Dave Constable with a huge amount of experience, and right on the financial side, we've got a Cisco CFO on our board of directors. And the management team is mostly South American. We have a huge depth of experience in South America. In terms of capital structure, we've got 120 million shares outstanding at the moment, market cap of about 50 million, 12 million in cash, and about 14% of our shares are held by insiders, and the remainder, a very nice split between institutions and individual accounts. In terms of valuation, apologies, this is a bit of a busy slide, but we've tried to compare our share price over time against some of our peers, and we've actually held up reasonably well. However, in terms of enterprise value per pound of uranium in the ground, we are a little bit lower than our peers tend to be. And the other thing that I should point out is that these figures are generated only on uranium. They only take the uranium resource into account. They don't take the phosphate, vanadium, or rare earths. And just on the right-hand side in the bottom corner of that diagram, some of the M&A that's been going on in the uranium space over the last year or so, some of the prices per pound of uranium, again, that bigger companies have taken out smaller companies on. And obviously, they've been paying a good premium. So, to summarize, 2011 was a huge year for us. We grew this company absolutely dramatically. And what is the plan for 2012? Well, Berlin is a priority project in Colombia with its mix of commodities. We plan to demonstrate to the market the size potential of that project through that exploration drilling. Secondly, we plan to double the resource in Berlin. We are going to tidy up some of the loose ends on the metallurgy and do a scoping study to demonstrate the economic viability of Berlin. So a huge news flow coming out of Berlin, and that drilling is ongoing at the moment. In Argentina, exactly the same thing. We've been doing a lot of exploration around the principal project, and we're in a situation where we feel confident that we'll be able to double the resource relatively easily. Again, we're tidying up a little bit of the metallurgy, and there's a scoping study coming in the second half of the year. And then in Guyana, we will be announcing very shortly an update to the resource there, somewhere between 15 and 20 million pounds. It makes it, and we plan through our work that we're doing in that area at the moment to demonstrate to the market the size potential of the third project within the company. So a huge amount of news flow in 2012, and we plan to continue our growth on the same sort of trajectory that we had in 2011. Thanks very much.